you get paid in direct proportion to the value you bring to the market. So if you want to make more money, solve bigger problems or more problems, bring more value, you make more money.
You don't get what you deserve, you get what you expect. Because we're all deserving. But where's our expectation?
Guys, welcome to another episode in our masterclass series we're doing.
Hey!
This is really fun because we're going to do a series of videos and we're actually here in Puerto Rico. Yeah, at my hotel, and we're about to do a workshop. We've got a live audience, and Jamil, I just love so much doing this content with you.
So fun.
I'm just so passionate about it. You're so passionate about it. And I think we could just do endless content and videos on this topic because there's just a lot of things that go into it, a lot of things to learn.
Yep.
And thank you again for being here.
Of course.
Super excited.
Thanks for
I love
having
hanging
us.
out with you. Love spending time with you. I love your energy, Jamil. Your passion, your heart, and just that go-giver. And let's help people really win big at this model, right? And we're talking all about how to do agents, how to wholesale using real estate agents as your avatar, right? As your marketing channel.
Yep.
And again, there's a lot that can go into this. There's so many different facets of how to do this model well. And so what we're going to do is we're going to cherry pick these different topics and really try to maybe deep dive on them. And Jamil had the idea of this video topic being a lot around the mindset. And this would apply to pretty much everybody in our industry, not just agent model.
And not even just real estate. I think it's just in business in general about earning money and the feelings around it.
Yeah, and I'm going to pick on Haim a little bit in our audience because he had a deal that he's about to close, and it's a big win. It's a $65,000 fee profit on his wholesale deal that he's doing. It's actually a takedown, so he bought it, resold it, but just that's all he did was bought it and resold it. And I've seen this mindset, Jamil, and I'm sure you've seen it quite a bit too, where sometimes when we're doing this business, we can feel a little guilty about the money we're making.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe we're bringing that mindset to the table, which is, I don't really want the seller to know how much I'm making. I don't want my buyer to know how much I'm making, as if there's maybe something wrong with this.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about this. By the way, anybody here in the audience, have you felt that before?
I felt it.
Okay.
I've had it myself.
Okay, good. Thank you for being honest, you guys. Like, oh man, am I making too much? Am I earning what I'm making? Is it ethical? Is there something wrong with this? How many of you have heard other people say that what we do as wholesalers is unethical? Like that we're taking advantage of somebody. How many of you have heard? I hear it every day because I get comments about it all the time. Like, oh, you're taking advantage of a seller because they're selling at a discount to you and then you're reselling it to somebody else. Like, who's heard that? Like you're taking advantage of somebody. Let's tackle this, I think, once and for all. Let's nail this one really good, because the problem is what, Jamil? If you're showing up with that attitude of, I feel a little icky, what's going to happen in your business if you're having that mindset?
You're going to block it. You block your blessings, right? And the reality is that when you're in the situation where you're able to make that money, right? You were a key piece in that whole transaction happening. Without you, that seller doesn't get to sell that property to that buyer. Now, again, at the end of the day, when somebody sells something to you for a price that you agree upon, right? That person has entered into a contract willingly, and they've decided that for them, this is what is acceptable. This is what they want. And we tend to second guess ourselves or allow others to second guess what we've done because for whatever reason, we haven't come to terms with the fact that that's how business operates. Right? At the end of the day, you are always going to make the amount of money that is directly related to the amount of value that you brought to a situation. And so for Haim, in making $65,000 on the deal, he brought $65,000 worth of value to the seller and the buyer, right? Jerry was explaining to me a little bit about the seller situation, and of course you can elaborate if you want, but this person was getting code violations, is incurring debt, incurring all kinds of different hardships by owning the property because they didn't have a solution on how to deal with it. Maybe they didn't have the wherewithal. Maybe they didn't have the resources. Maybe they didn't have the team. They didn't have what was necessary in order to maintain that situation.
And what's interesting, Jamil, is could that seller could he have gone to the city and stopped the demolition and stopped the code violations and fixed the issues and put it to market and found a buyer and he made the $65,000? Could the seller have done that? He had every ability to do that. Every opportunity, every ability to
but
do
didn't
that.
take it.
But he didn't want to.
Right.
He didn't want to.
Yeah.
He just wanted to be done with it. He just wanted that stress and anxiety of that property out of his life. And so he said to Hein, give me $5,000 to get this headache out of my life, and I'm happy. Now, there is an exception. If you're talking to a seller that's not of sound mind, right? Like an elderly person.
Or if you've lied, if a seller flat out says to you, what do you think I could get for this? Which they don't often ask, right? With your question is, what will you take? And they give you a number. That's a great question with an answer. But if the seller says, what do you think I could get for this from somebody? And you lie to them, there's an ethical situation, right? Because you could say, well, I think you could probably get $70,000 for it. Now you're in a conversation, well, I wouldn't pay $70,000, maybe I'd pay $50,000. Now that person has increased the value by the question that they asked. But they didn't. That wasn't the scenario that was important to them. What was important to them at the time was, take the monkey off my back, please. Who in here has ever traded a car in? Who's ever traded a car? Let me see your hands. Okay. And when you traded in a car, were you aware that they were going to sell that car for a profit? Audience watching this, how many of you have ever traded a car?
I use CarMax as an example. Does anybody know what CarMax is?
Yeah.
Okay, they're probably like the largest used car dealer like in the world. So what CarMax does is you take your car to them, they give you a discount on the price for cash, and you walk out of there and you're done. CarMax then turns around and wholesales it. They just resell it.
Right.
That's all they do for a profit. Why does the consumer take it to CarMax? Why don't they just go find the retail buyer? Why don't they do that?
They don't want to deal with it.
They don't want weirdos showing up at their house. They don't want to have to put new tires on it. They don't want to have someone drive it around and test drive it. They don't want to have someone get the financing to buy it. They don't want any. They just want to walk in the CarMax and walk out with a check. That's what we do.
Yep.
So there's nothing unethical about what we do, and you have to overcome that mindset.
You do.
Or it's going to become a self-limiting belief for you. It's going to actually hold you back quite a bit. Everybody has a financial thermostat. And whatever your thermostat is, you'll earn up to that income, and that's it. And then you'll self-sabotage to get yourself back into that place. You'll either have a big win, and then you'll lose money to bring yourself back down. You only will ever earn what your mental thermostat is set for in your income level.
And don't think that calamitous situations aren't a form of self-sabotage. We love blaming the economy, the president, this person, the thief, the
investor, contractor.
Yeah, all of the things, right? You bring the things to you. You bring them to you based off of your beliefs and what you are really feeling subconsciously. Because we can lie to ourselves as much as we want on the surface of what we think, but what you believe always shows up. So if you ever want to know how you're really doing, look at the next person you meet. Look at the next person you meet. They're a reflection of how you're doing, because that's what you're bringing to yourself. So if you bring to yourself the scammer, if you bring to yourself the problem, if you bring to yourself the loss, that's what you believe. That's where you have to lean in and do the work. Because all this did was show you where you were. For instance, last year, Pace and I both lost $1 million. I
remember,
right?
Yeah.
And what was
with an investment?
With an investment, yeah. One of the things that I really had to come to terms with was like how I felt about it. One of the greatest examples that I could say I've gotten from Pace as a brother and a friend was how he handled it. Was exactly how he handled the situation. I ruminated. I got angry. I was pointing fingers. I was like, I'm gonna, and I just wanted to lash out and have like revenge. I wanted to get I wanted the people who were perpetrators of it to know that they messed with the wrong guy. And you want to know what Pace did? Walked away. He said, Jamil, can I ask you to do me a favor? Yeah. Never bring it up to me again. I don't care. I don't care. It's gone. I'm moving forward. And so he let me play in my sandbox for a couple of months, right? While I was just throwing the sand out of the box, doing my thing, having my fit, right? Meanwhile, he was over on the swings, making another $1 million. Like it didn't matter to him, right? And so, part of the example is that you will really bring to yourself what you need. And I had to learn that time. My lesson was, hey, don't get so attached to this. Money is an energy, brother. And your thermostat, what you're doing here and why you guys have come here is to bring more of the energy into your life, right? Bring more of the money into your world. You want to be able to do things with it. It's just a tool, right?
Yeah, I want to emphasize something you said in the very beginning. You said you get paid in direct proportion to the value you bring to the market. So if you want to make more money, solve bigger problems or more problems, bring more value, you make more money. And Haim, on your deal, you brought tremendous value to the market.
Yep.
Because when you put that property out to market, you had huge activity. You had multiple people interested in that. And a buyer came forward and said, I will pay $70,000 for this property because I'm going to take it now to the finish line. I'm going to now do all this value add and resell it or whatever they're going to do to it. They saw the value and you brought that value to the market. And you provided tremendous value to the seller because the seller was like, I want out of this property. You actually bought it. So you took the risk, the financial risk to buy this property. You didn't know totally if it was going to win big. You took a risk because this thing was a teardown, really. I mean, it was in really bad shape. The city was threatening all these things, code violation, all this stuff going on here. And you said, I'm going to take the risk. I need to get it at a discount and I'm willing to do the work to bring this deal to market. And you deserve every penny that you're going to get in that wire tomorrow. Every penny of it you earned and you deserve. So I don't want you to feel 1 ounce of like, I'm kind of embarrassed about this deal or how much I made, or that somehow you mistreated somebody in the transaction. Okay.
Also, when you find people or they say to you, this is like making money is unethical or what we do is unethical. All that is a reflection of them. At the end of the day, we only say what we are.
Yeah, that's their trauma.
It's their trauma. It's their thing, right? I look at one of my favorite examples to think about is a delicious Big Mac. I love Big Macs. They're really good, right? They're worth every ounce of the $8 to $11 that you'll pay for one. And I know McDonald's doesn't make them for $8 to $11, right? Their cost on the Big Mac might be 50 cents to $1, right? And why does McDonald's feel so okay with charging me $8 to $11 for it? Why do I say 8 to 11? Because you buy one in an airport, it's $11. You buy one on the street, it's 8, right? So, and I'll buy them wherever I find them. So, but I happily pay it. Why? Because of the joy it brings to me, right? I really like eating them. They're so good. And so for me, that understanding that there was a process to that Big Mac, right? I didn't kill the cow. I didn't ground the meat. I didn't bake the bread. I didn't make the lettuce. I didn't make the delicious sauce. I didn't grow the pickles. I didn't do any of that. It was all done by other people. And every way that Big Mac came to the table had a step up in value, right? From the butchering to the grinding, then to the packaging, to the transportation, to the preparation, to the service. All of it had a step up in value. It touched new hands and had new value added to it, to the point where it became food for me. And so seeing what you do as valuable is the game.
Yeah. And you know what? Well, like when you look at Haim's deal there, where he's making $65,000, like if you just isolated that one deal and you look at it, you say, okay, he didn't do anything, he didn't fix it up, and he's making $65,000. That's unfair. But what everybody's not seeing, which I see because I know Haim, is do you know what he's put into his business to get to that home run deal?
Right.
I've seen the thousands of offers he's made.
And also, how did he even find the buyer? Like, all of that takes skill and effort and time. You
No
know,
one's seeing that. They're not seeing they're not seeing the cow grazing on the field that got to the Big Mac. No one's seeing that. They're just seeing, oh, that's not fair that they're charging $8 and it cost them $4 or whatever it cost them.
Right.
No one's seeing the process that McDonald's has gone through to bring that to the plate.
Right.
The wrapper, right? And so, Chaim, that's you, man. Like, you're working so hard to get to the wins, which means all of that accumulative effort translates into wins. And our job in this business is to do enough of those things to where the wins are consistent and regular. And if we do the consistent things, then those wins become normal. It's no longer the deal of a lifetime. It's the deal of the week.
Right. Yeah.
Because you're building and you're laying the groundwork to where those big wins start to happen more often and more often. I'll tell you guys, it took me about 15 years in the business to get to my first $1 million deal, where I made $1 million on one single deal. And I set this goal. I don't know if you guys know this story, but when I first got into real estate, you know, you sit down and you get your book out and you're like, I'm going to write my goals. Well, one of my goals was to make $1 million on one deal. I don't know why I made that. I just thought it was such a huge, lofty goal that I'm going to make this goal. At the time, I thought this would be like so far out there, but I'm going to write it down anyway. And I rewrote that goal every year. And then I went to work and I started moving up the ladder in price point to where I'm starting to do a little bit of luxury, like $1 million homes and then $3 million homes. And so it took a long time. But here's the crazy part. I did this deal, was in Paradise Valley, new construction, flipped it, made $1.2 million. And then I did like 5 more in the next 18 months. And why though? Why?
Because you broke the barrier.
I just broke this barrier that I thought was so
You ran
big.
the 4-minute mile.
And then it became like, oh, you can do a 4-minute mile?
Yeah. And then it just became training for you.
That became the new normal.
Yeah.
Is the point I'm trying to make. Once you create you reach that threshold, you reset a new thermostat. As long as you're overcoming your self-limiting beliefs, and you create a new threshold, and that becomes the new normal.
I want to do an exercise. Write down the amount of money you want to make a month. And then I want you guys, hold on, just write it down first.
If you're watching this, write this down.
Write it down.
Stop right now and write this down.
At home, write it down. Hi, what's your number? 20? 120,000. Hugh.
100 grand.
100 grand.
20?
That's what you wrote?
Yeah.
You wrote 20,000? What'd you write?
75.
75. Ryan.
Oh, 20,000.
20,000.
100.
Yeah. How much? 250?
5. Yeah.
No, it's amazing.
100,000.
Craig.
Yeah, 100,000.
Scott.
100,000. 100,000. 1 to 200.
How much?
100 to 200.
100 to 200. Okay. Wow, isn't it interesting the range, right? Now, what if I was to say to all of you guys that have 100,000, 200,000, why wasn't it $1 million? Why wasn't it $1 million?
You know what's the crazy thing? If you can make 100 a month, you can make $1 million.
You can
a month.
absolutely make $1 million a month.
If you can make 100, you can make $1 million.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, guys, and I love the example that Grant taught me, right? Grant Cardone, for those of you who don't know, we know Grant. He's a great guy. And, you know, I love Grant because he shows me what's possible for stupid people. And Grant, I love you so much. But like when you meet Grant, he's just Grant, right? He's like authentic, boisterous, energetic, beautiful family, beautiful wife, beautiful everything. You know why he has that? Because he feels like he deserves it. He's worthy of it. He's worthy of $1 billion. So 2008, him and I both go down to the same number in debt. Having this conversation with him, he's like, I was back at 1.8 million in debt. I was like, that's my number. That's how much I was in debt too. But you know what my goal was after like the rebound was to restore what I lost, which was 12. right? I lost 12 million in the crash. I wanted to restore myself. He didn't see a restoration. He saw a new opportunity to build and create a new target. And so he says billions. And what does he get?
Billions.
You don't get what you deserve, friends. You get what you expect. That's life. You don't get what you deserve. You get what you expect. Because we're all deserving. But where's our expectation, right? If you're expecting 20,000, that's all you're going to get, honey. But I want you to expect 1 million. I want that for you. I want that for me. I deserve that. Because if I'm making $1 million a month, then that means I'm bringing $1 million a month worth of value to this world.
Yeah, and here's what's crazy. Let's just take wholesaling. You guys all here are wholesalers. If you look at the operators in nationwide, and I get a chance to kind of lift the hood and see this a little bit in what I do, and Jamil probably does too, there is very little difference in the operations that do 100,000 a month and the ones that do 1 million a month. There's very little difference. Basically, the teams are almost the same size. What do you guys think the difference is? 100,000 a month versus $1 million a month operations. What do you think the difference is?
Just the margin in deals.
Okay, so that's one, bigger margin. So the $1 million businesses, they're averaging 40, they're doing big volume, they're doing big margin deals. They don't do $5,000 wholesales. They just don't do them. They won't do them. They can't. Okay, that's one. What else? Marketing. They spend more money on marketing than everybody else. That's the second thing. Those are about the two. And they're dialed in, meaning like they're highly efficient. There's no holes in the boat.
There's no waste.
Yeah, there's no waste, there's no holes in the boat. But the team size is almost the same. Now, not quite, like there might be a few more acquisitions people, but I just mean the overhead is fairly the same with 100,000 versus 1 million. Okay, so the takeaway is what? What really the difference is mindset. Because if you're capped at 100,000 a month, by the way, you're in the top probably 5% of wholesalers nationwide. If you're doing 1 million a year, I would say, maybe top
sure.
10 at least.
Yep.
So you're in a whole new league mentally with your mindset when you're doing more than that in transaction size, in revenue, right? So it's mostly a mental barrier that's preventing people. It's not a skill barrier. It's not a market. Yep. There's a few other variables like those $1 million producers. They're in 5 to 7 markets. So they're not nationwide, but they are in a handful of markets, and they're very versatile. And they don't have shiny object syndrome. So they're not doing creative and they're not doing novations, and they're doing like 1 or 2 things, and they do them really, really well. They're not doing flipping. They're not fixing and flipping because that's a big distraction.
It's focused,
sucks money
right?
away. Yeah, they're highly focused.
Very focused. The attention, right? Whenever you put your attention on something, it just expands. It's the currency we have as human beings, which is incredible because it's our through physics, we understand this, that our attention, our observation actually creates physical reality.
Yep. You're doing $1 million a year in volume. $1 million a year in volume. There's nothing to stop you from making that your monthly volume. There's nothing to stop you. You have everything at your disposal to do $1 million a month, not $1 million a year. Like you can go there, but you've got to believe that, because if you don't believe that, then you'll stay where you're at.
So now with the money that you've made, and we create a target, right? What needs to be true about you for that to happen? Write that down. What needs to be true about you for that goal to be achieved?
That's that soul-searching question there.
Absolutely.
By the way, there's a book, Jamil. Have you guys read Secrets of the Millionaire Mind?
Oh,
I make
TR
Vecker.
Yeah.
I make all my students read that before they even come to class, because what he does is he breaks down he calls them wealth files, but I think there's 20 or 21 belief systems that we have around money and success. And it doesn't matter what you do, if you don't get those right, then you'll always just reset back to what your thermostat is. So it's all psychological to get to a place where you're now, to be able to track the wealth. Okay, so everybody needs, I highly recommend it, but that's sort of what you're talking about.
Yeah, because
what's stopping me?
Well, the characteristics that we see in ourselves, right? That are the future version, that the higher, better version of us that we all try to grow to, right? The reality is that whatever you've written down there, that gap, there's a gap. There's a gap between where you are right now and where that is, right? So now that you know what needs to be true in order for you to get there, what are the steps that take you to get to that? Mm-hmm. It's not rocket science here, guys. It really isn't. It's one foot in front of the next. And it's every day getting a little bit better at it, a little bit better at it, a little bit better at it, until that person becomes who you are. That delusional guy that I see on YouTube, again, right? It was so funny to me because when I was watching him in the beginning, I'm like, he spoke as if his audience was massive. He spoke as if everybody really cared and listened to him, right? And there was no one there. And then what happened? They showed up, right? Delusional expectation. It was like he certain that there was millions of people watching him. He was certain of it. And for me, there was and then I thought to myself, well, why are you watching? Right? And then I got it. I was like, wow, that right there is the energy. That right there is how we all get to that spot, right? So all the things that need to be true about you that get you to that income level, we start today.
Yeah. And here's the thing, guys, to wrap this video up, is all of you guys came here, you guys listening, you came to this video because you're probably hoping to get some sort of a skill that's going to give you a competitive advantage. How many of you are here to gain some new skills that will give you a competitive advantage in the marketplace? That's awesome. But here's the thing. The equation to really do this business well, to really succeed and reach all your goals, is probably 80 to 90% mindset, the real estate between your ears, and it's probably only 10 to 20% skill set.
Yep.
It literally is that. So if you're going to focus some energy into building this business, if you could put that energy into your mindset, your self-limiting beliefs, the real estate between your ears, that will allow you to exceed far more than any tactic or script or thing that Jamil and I could teach in the mechanics of the business. Now we're going to focus on it because everybody, if we lead out with mindset, nobody shows up. If we lead out with skill set, everybody shows up, right? But now that we got you here, you're captive, and we lied to you. We're not going to teach you any skill set. We're going to teach you all mindset. But in all seriousness, that's the reality of it. So when I figured that out for me years ago, it changed everything because I thought I just needed to learn the next cool thing.
I know.
I'll win.
It's such a mind jumble, right? Because and the reality is that everything is happening right now, past, future, present. Again, physics proves it. And so you are 20 minutes, your energy is 20 minutes ahead of you. It's already made the call, right? So as you're seeing the agent as the obstacle, my goodness, it will be the obstacle.
Yeah. Okay, guys, we love you. Thank you for being here. Leave a comment if you have any questions around this. Let us know if this was like life-changing, if like a light bulb went off. Did any light bulbs go off, guys? Good. Light bulbs went off. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. We're going to put the playlist link to this entire series in the description below, so check that out, and we'll see you guys on the next video.
Whoa.
Hey.